G'day legends, I hope you're all amazing. On today's video, we're checking out Genome 2.0 from TwoNotes. Not only have they added a whole bunch of new features, routing options, amps, and effects to Genome, they've also launched their new Capture Studio, which allows you to make your own NAM captures and your own parametric NAM captures. We'll talk about all of that a little bit later, but for now, let's just have a bit of a jam with a greasy preset that I created in Genome. Start out by building a basic rock rig in Genome. This will let me show you how the plugin works, as well as showing off some of the new amps, effects, and routing options. And yes, you can now run parallel paths in Genome 2.0, which is awesome. Let's start off up here in the grid. You can see you've got a bunch of elements that are clickable. These will let you load any amp, cabinet, or effect that you like. So I'm going to start off with the new Eldorado 100 amplifier model. This is based on the Soldano SLO 100. I've got a basic IR loader with my free LT-TV Mix 7 cab IR in there. If you want to grab that one, it's in the video description. And I've got a noise gate at the start of the chain. A new feature in here as well is this end of chain Mixfit. We'll talk about this a little bit later, but at the moment, I'm just using this for a basic low cut and high cut. Let's have a listen to where I've got this Eldorado 100 set. This is a Les Paul Custom with burst buckers. Not a bad way to start. Let's add some post effects to that. The first thing that I want to do is add a little bit of ambience. I'm going to click up here and come down to the reverb section. I'm just going to go with this studio reverb to get started. And I like that every module in here gives you a bunch of advanced parameters, or you can use some presets in here. So let's start off with the small and bright preset. I'll maybe just bring the overall dry wet mix down on that. Let's have a listen. Let's roll with that for now. I'm going to add some stereo widening, and I've got a bunch of options in here. I can use the Studio Twin Tracker, or I could use some modulation. I really like that they've got this model of the Roland Juno chorus in here, but maybe let's stick with the studio vibe and go for the studio chorus. I can adjust the width on here. I'm going to take the feedback all the way down. I'm going to go for a pretty low rate, maybe go for around 30% mix on here, and I'll keep the amount below 50. This should add some nice stereo width and grease. Let's have some fun at the front of the chain now. I'm going to add a phaser. I love a good phase 90 style model, and they've got this 9-phase in here, exactly like the real pedal, one knob. Turn it somewhere around 9 o'clock and it should do the How about we hit the front of this amp with a boost now? I'm going to come into the drive section, and we've got submenus for dedicated boost, distortion, fuzz, overdrive, and preamps. I really like this Dirty Boy preamp in here, along with this Variac control. So I'm going to turn the gain down a little bit, bring the volume up, and just dip the tone. This one goes pretty hard, especially in front of an already raging amp. Finally, let's add some delay to this preset. This is going to cover all the basics for me in a rock rig. Again, studio delay over here. There is an awesome ping pong option in there that I really like. I dialed in a couple of presets earlier based on some of my favorite settings. I'm going to go with this LT dual setting where we've got a dotted eighth note on one side, a quarter note on the other side. And what I like is you can link the time, feedback, wet, dry, mix, and EQ section, or run them independently on here. I think that's a great little feature. For me, I like adjusting the time and the feedback separately, but having the dry, wet mix linked is really nice. I'm going to bring that down to about 30%. Also like you can get some pretty extreme filtering on the delay repeats here as well. Let's just have a listen to what that does. That is absolutely glorious. I could take it even further by setting up some parallel routing using the new merge and split features in Genome 2.0. Let's do this. Let's click this little icon and we're going to split before the amplifier. We will merge before the studio comp, and I'll copy my settings from the amp and IR and paste them over here. So now I've got a stereo pair of these amps. A great way to get a bit of extra stereo separation would be to set up the second amp slightly differently. Let's go for slightly less overdrive, and I might turn up the mid-range and back off the treble over here. What I'm going to do is now go over to the merge, and I can pan and adjust the volume individually. Let's leave the volumes the same, but I've panned them hard left and hard right. What I'm going to do now is come in here. Let's go to the modulation. I'm going to use this Hera 60 chorus model, crank the overall width up. I'm going to bring the dry wet mix down a little bit. So this is based on the Juno chorus. I'll turn it off for now, but let's just have a listen to those SLO models set slightly differently and panned out. It's going to give us some nice stereo width. Then I'll kick in the stereo chorus. it's worth doing, it's worth overdoing, right? Another great example of running separate amps in parallel would be the new dual rectifier model. This one is called Flatback Dual. And then there's a model of the Boogie Mark V, the Flatback Mark V. I've got a Dyne-IR cab on the dual Recto. What I can do with this, of course, is I can move this virtual mic around on the virtual cabinet. I can actually blend two mics on there, and then I've got my free IR over here. You can see how I've got each of these amps set up. With the merge, what I'm going to do is maybe start out with both of them down the middle, and I'll let you just hear each amp individually. Then I'm going to pan them out, get the levels the same, and we'll have this massive stereo spread again. While I've got this absolute chungus of a tone cooking, I'll show you the new Global Transpose feature. This lets you polyphonically tune your guitar up or down. You can go up or down as much as 2 full octaves on there. Let's just have a listen to what it does when I transpose down one whole tone. One of the features that set Genome apart early was the ability to load your own NAM captures into the plugin. You do that with this codex block. However, Two Notes now have their own NAM capture studio, and beyond that, you can create static single NAM captures, or you can create parametric captures, and this is really interesting. Essentially, what you do with the parametric captures is set up your amp or drive pedal. It will take a capture with all the knobs at noon. Then you go through and it will take a capture with, say, the gain control at 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, all the way through its range while the other knobs remain at noon. You would then go through and, say, capture the bass, middle, treble, and volume at those settings as well. And you can parameterize this any way you like. If you just want to use the gain control, you take 11 captures, and then it will train a single model that has that parameterized gain control. If you wanted to, say, do 5 different knobs on there, like the drive, a 3-band EQ, and say a master volume, it would take, I think, 55 captures, and then it would train them on there. If you're interested, I will do a separate video showing you how to do this, but I've just put up some screen grabs of what's happening with all of that. Essentially, what you get is this ability to load up in this new PARADEX block, which I'll bring up in the amplifier, these parametrized captures. And I've made a couple of these. I made one of my Marshall JVM on the OD1 Orange channel, and I also made a parametric capture of my Past Effects OG1 in the OD1 mode. So I'll show you a preset where you can use both of those together. In this first instance of PARADEX, I've got my OG1 capture loaded up. It captured the drive and the level control on the pedal. Then the JVM capture has gain, bass, mid, and treble. I normally set the master volume, presence, and depth in one place on there, so I was happy with that being static. But let's have a listen to what this does just by starting out with the amp model. You can see I've turned the gain down and the mids down a little bit, cranked up the treble on there. Then I'll bring in this OG1 model and play around with the knobs. This is really exciting because rather than having to create a bunch of single static NAM captures and then scroll through them on a list, you can now create parametric models of your own amplifiers with the real controls that your amp has. If you're interested in learning more about this, I'm happy to do a follow-up video just looking at the way Capture Studio works. But for now, I'll show you a couple more features in here. We'll look at the Mixfit feature. I'll just leave it on this preset here. And I like that they've essentially taken an end of chain, like finishing EQ, but they've set it up so if you don't know anything about how EQ works, you can use these descriptors like modern to vintage, sub, depth, focus, edge, sparkle, and air to fine-tune your final guitar tone. This to me would be really useful if you were listening, say, to playback and you wanted to make your guitars either cut through, you wanted them a bit smoother, you wanted some tape-style saturation on there without using a bunch of different plugins. I'll give you a very quick demo of how that works. So we'll start out maybe on the right side and I'll let you hear tape A and tape B for some soft clipping. And thankfully they give us an on and off button there, so you can check whether you've absolutely cooked your core guitar tone on there. A big fan of that, big fan of the PARADEX setup and the Capture Studio in there. What I'm gonna do now is just play you out with a couple of other presets that I've put together, showcasing some of the effects, some of the amp models, and some of my NAMM captures. If you'd like to learn more about Genome, I'll pop a link in the video description. Massive shout out to the Two Notes team, especially Ross, for setting me up so I could make this video. The fact that you can also run this on iPad is a massive plus, and I feel like they have absolutely smashed it out of the park with the 2.0 update. I really hope this is going to be a case of a rising tide lifting all boats when it comes to guitar-focused plugins, because they have crammed so many great features into this. I really do hope this sets a new standard for what we expect out of guitar plugins. As I said, they've absolutely smashed it with this one, and I cannot wait to play around with it some more. For now, though, go and grab your guitars, make some loud guitar noises, and I will play you all out with some more Genome tones.